Money can't buy love, but nobody told me money can also buy the perfect lie. Because if you met my husband, you would have sworn I was the luckiest woman alive. Roland Kingsley, billionaire, soft-spoken, loyal, the kind of man who held my waist in public like he was proud to own the world. And proudest of me. And that's why none of us saw it coming. Me, my two closest friends, also billionaire wives, 3 women who thought we married kings. So when our husbands surprised us with a wives-only vacation in a private highland resort owned by one of them, it felt like heaven. Champagne, heated pools, luxury dinners under the stars. But on the 3rd night, we found the tapes. Not love letters, not business documents. Tapes. Hidden in a private vault like trophies. Videos of our husbands with women we'd never seen before. And the worst part? They weren't alone. Because it wasn't one man cheating, it was all 3 of them, together. And in that moment, I knew something that made my blood turn cold. This vacation wasn't a gift, it was a trap. I used to believe betrayal only happened in noisy marriages, the kind where couples fight in public, insult each other behind closed doors, and slowly stop pretending they're happy. But my marriage wasn't like that. My marriage looked perfect. Roland Kingsley didn't just love me, he performed love like a religion. Every morning, he kissed my forehead before leaving the penthouse, and every evening he texted me that he missed me, even when he was 10 feet away inside his private home office. When he traveled for business, he would fly back for one night just to hold me, as if distance was something he couldn't survive without. So when people looked at us and whispered goals, I started believing it too, and that lie became my comfort. Maybe that was why the truth later hurt like death. Because it didn't only destroy my marriage, it destroyed the version of myself that trusted. My closest friends were also billionaire wives, and over time the 3 of us formed a bond that felt deeper than friendship, because it was built on something most people don't understand: luxury loneliness. There was Sienna Hale, married to tech mogul Damian Hale, a man who owned half the apps on our phones and still found time to post romantic captions about her like love was part of his brand. Then there was Bianca Sterling, married to Adrian Sterling, the youngest real estate billionaire in the country, famous for building skyscrapers and giving interviews about family values. And then there was me, Lena Kingsley, wife to Roland Kingsley, the quiet billionaire, the one who avoided interviews, hated cameras, and kept his life so private that people didn't even know the color of his cars unless he wanted them to. I used to think his privacy was classy. Now I know privacy can be a weapon. It started on a Friday evening when Roland came home early, rare enough to make me suspicious, but he walked in with that calm confidence that always melted my doubts. He carried a black envelope with gold lettering and smiled like a man holding the most beautiful secret in the world. I was sitting on the couch in a silk lounge set, hair wrapped up, face clean, no makeup, no jewelry, no billionaire wife uniform. He sat beside me slowly, took my hand, and stared at me like he was memorizing my face. "Lena," he said softly, "you've been caring too much lately." I laughed a little and told him I wasn't the one running the empire, but he shook his head and said, "You carry me." And the way he said it made my cheeks warm, because it didn't sound like flattery. It sounded like truth. Then he slid the envelope into my palm, like it was a gift from heaven. When I opened it, I saw a glossy card with the words, "The Highland Ridge Estate," written across it. And underneath it, in bold letters, it read, 3 nights, wives only, no staff, no cameras, no media, everything taken care of, a vacation. My mouth fell open as I stared at him. I asked if he planned this, and he smiled and said, "We planned it, not I planned it." As in him, Damian, and Adrian, the 3 billionaire husbands together planning something for us. That detail should have felt romantic. Instead, it planted something uneasy in me, like a seed of confusion I didn't know how to name. The next day, Sienna and Bianca came over, and the excitement in their voices filled my living room like music. Sienna ran into my arms and screamed that this vacation was going to heal us, because she was tired of events and cameras. Bianca joked that she just wanted to eat without anybody asking her about her husband's net worth. And I laughed along, but I knew the truth. The laughter wasn't only joy, it was relief. Because billionaire marriages are velvet cages. Everything is beautiful, but nothing feels free. This vacation sounded like freedom. The private jet took us into the skies like royalty. No commercial airports, no waiting lines, no strangers, just 3 women sitting in soft seats, surrounded by champagne glasses, warm towels, fruit trays, and the kind of quiet peace money buys. Bianca rested her head back and sighed that she could finally breathe. Sienna said our husbands were obsessed with us. They just didn't know how to show love without money. And I agreed, because in my head, I kept repeating the same thought like a prayer. Roland is trying. Roland loves me. Roland is not like the others. I didn't know my mind was speaking from ignorance. When we arrived, the Highland Ridge estate didn't look like a resort. It looked like a kingdom. A private luxury lodge built on an isolated hilltop, surrounded by tall pine trees and fog-covered mountains that looked like they belonged in a movie. The building itself was stone and glass, and warm golden lights glowed from inside like it was inviting us into a dream. There was an infinity pool hanging over the edge of the hill, a helipad, a wine cellar, and private security posted outside. But inside, the silence was calm and expensive. Bianca whistled and asked if Adrian really owned this, and Sienna laughed and said billionaires don't buy land, they buy mountains. I forced myself to laugh too, but something crawled up my spine. Because the estate didn't feel like a vacation home, it felt like a place built to hide things. Inside, everything smelled like cedarwood and luxury, and there was a handwritten note waiting for us near the fireplace. It said, "To our queens, rest, reset, remember who you are. No contact for 72 hours, we love you. R, D, and A." I smiled at the note at first, but Bianca frowned immediately. She asked why it said no contact. And Sienna shrugged and said maybe it was part of the healing, like some romantic therapy thing. But the words bothered me. No contact didn't mean limited contact. It meant cut off. And suddenly, I missed my phone. That night, the estate glowed like heaven. We wore satin robes, drank wine, and sat beside the heated pool, watching the stars like girls who had escaped the world. No cameras, no assistants, no husbands, no pressure. For once, it felt like we could breathe. We talked deeply, almost painfully. Sienna admitted she sometimes cried after events because Damien treated her like a trophy. Bianca confessed she was scared Adrian loved his legacy more than he loved her. Then they looked at me and asked about Roland, and I hesitated before smiling. I said Roland was good, but the truth was, I didn't know anymore. He had been perfect lately, too perfect. And I didn't understand then that perfection is sometimes just a mask. Later that night, I woke up thirsty and slipped out of bed, wrapping my robe tight around me as I walked barefoot down the hallway. The house was too quiet, almost unnatural. Then I heard it, a soft sound, like a door opening and closing gently. My heart paused. I froze. Security was outside and there were no staff inside, so no one should have been moving, but someone was. The sound came from the lower level, the side of the estate we hadn't explored. I stood there debating whether to call Sienna or Bianca, but curiosity pulled stronger than fear, so I took one step, then another, until I reached the stairs. The air grew colder as I went down, and that was when I saw it. A door slightly open, warm light leaking out from behind it. My breath caught as I pushed it gently and stepped inside. It wasn't a storage room, it wasn't a wine cellar, it was a vault, a private vault. And in the center of it was a locked cabinet with 3 engraved names on it like ownership marks. Roland, Damien, Adrian. My hands started shaking, because suddenly I understood something terrifying. This wives-only vacation wasn't only about relaxation. It had secrets buried inside it, secrets with our husbands' names on them. I stood there for a full minute, frozen like my body suddenly forgot how to move, because the moment I saw that cabinet with their names engraved on it, Roland, Damien, Adrian, my stomach dropped in a way I can't even explain. It wasn't just fear, it was disbelief. The kind of disbelief that makes you feel stupid for ever trusting anybody completely. That cabinet wasn't decorated like a random storage locker. It looked official, heavy, expensive, like something built to protect something dangerous. The kind of cabinet that doesn't hold wine, or documents, or jewelry. It holds secrets. The type of secrets that can destroy families if they ever see light. My eyes scanned the room quickly. It was a hidden vault with soft LED lights lining the ceiling, stone walls, and a cold polished floor that reflected my bare feet. Everything about the place was clean, organized, and intentionally private. On one side was a small desk with a laptop dock station. On another side was a glass shelf filled with USB drives in labeled slots. And directly in front of me was the cabinet, black steel, thick, with a digital lock system and a second key lock beneath it. That meant it required two things to open: code and key. Whoever built this wanted it to stay closed, and whoever put those names on it wanted everyone to know exactly who owned what was inside. I swallowed hard and stepped closer, my robe trembling slightly because my hands were trembling. I bent to examine the lock. It looked like the kind you see in private banks. I pressed the screen lightly and it blinked awake, asking for a 6-digit code. My heart started beating faster. I tried something stupid, impulsive. Roland's birthday. Denied. Then the year he founded the company. Denied. I pressed cancel and stepped back, suddenly angry at myself. What was I doing? Breaking into my husband's private vault like some thief in my own marriage? But my legs wouldn't move away. My instincts were screaming that something was wrong, and that cabinet confirmed it. I turned to leave, trying to convince myself that I was imagining things, that maybe it was just business-related. Maybe Damien and Adrian stored sensitive files there. Maybe this was normal in billionaire circles, but my chest wouldn't accept that explanation. Something in me knew this wasn't business. This felt personal, dark, hidden. As I climbed the stairs, my breathing became tight and shallow, like my body was preparing for disaster before my mind fully understood. I reached the hallway and paused, listening. The house was silent again. No footsteps, no movement. Like the vault never existed. Like the estate itself was a beautiful lie with a rotten basement. I went back to my room, but I didn't sleep. I sat at the edge of the bed, staring into the darkness, thoughts racing so fast they almost felt like loud voices. Roland had been perfect. Too perfect. The kind of perfect that makes you forget to question anything. The kind of perfect that makes you feel guilty for doubting him. I remembered the way he held my face and told me I carried him. I remembered how safe his arms always felt. And that's what made this worse, because my brain was battling my heart. My heart wanted to believe in my husband. My brain had just walked into a vault that said my husband had something to hide. When morning came, I forced myself to act normal. I brushed my teeth, washed my face, applied light makeup, and put on a flowy white lounge dress that made me look calm, even though I was breaking inside. Sienna and Bianca were already downstairs eating breakfast, laughing about how the estate had the best pancakes on earth. Their happiness made me feel guilty, like I was about to poison the whole vacation. But I couldn't keep it in. I sat down slowly, my fingers curling around my cup of tea like I needed something solid to hold me in place. "Girls," I said, and even my voice sounded different to me. Quiet, strained. Sienna looked up first, smiling. Bianca followed. "What's wrong?" Bianca asked immediately, because Bianca always noticed. She was the kind of woman whose eyes were sharp even in luxury. Sienna's smile faded slowly. "Lena, what happened?" I hesitated for just 1 second, because in that second my whole life flashed through my mind. The marriage, the wedding, the vows, the way Roland looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. Then I said it. "I found something downstairs last night." The moment those words left my mouth, the air changed. Bianca leaned forward. "What kind of something?" Sienna asked, already tense. I took a breath. "A vault." Their faces tightened. "A vault?" Bianca repeated, confused. "Like wine cellar?" I shook my head. "No, a hidden vault, with a locked cabinet inside." I could see the way Sienna's eyes widened slightly, fear trying to creep in, but pride pushing it down. Bianca's eyebrows furrowed. "Okay, and?" she asked. My throat dried up. "It has their names engraved on it," I said slowly. "Roland, Damien, Adrian." Silence hit us like a slap. Sienna blinked. Bianca froze. For a moment, none of us spoke, because our brains were trying to interpret something that felt impossible. Then Bianca sat back in her chair, her expression tightening with disbelief. "No," she said, almost laughing. "That doesn't make sense." Sienna swallowed hard. "Are you sure?" she asked softly, like she was afraid of the answer. "I saw it," I replied. "And it's not decoration, it's serious, like Bank-level security. Bianca stood up suddenly, pushing her chair back. Take me there, she said. Sienna's eyes darted between us. Bianca, she started, but Bianca cut her off. No, if something is locked up in this house with my husband's name on it, I'm seeing it, she said sharply. Then she turned to me. Now. Sienna stood too, slower, more hesitant. Maybe it's just business, she murmured, but her voice didn't sound convinced. Bianca shot her a look. Business doesn't get hidden in a secret vault during a wife's-only vacation, she replied. That hit me in my chest, because it was true. This estate wasn't just a holiday location. It was a controlled environment. Private, isolated, away from the world, away from witnesses. We moved through the house like thieves, but not because we were sneaky, because we were scared. We passed glossy hallways and expensive wall art and marble stairs that suddenly felt like part of a prison. When we got to the lower level, I led them down the corridor. My heart pounded harder with each step, because the closer we got, the more real it became. I stopped at the door. It was closed now. Bianca stepped forward first and pulled it open without hesitation. The lights inside were still on, low and cold. The vault was waiting for us like it knew we would come back. When the cabinet came into view, Sienna's breath caught. Bianca whispered, "Oh my God," because there it was, engraved clearly, shining against the black steel. Roland Kingsley, Damian Hale, Adrian Sterling. Sienna walked closer like she was in a trance. "Why would they?" she whispered, not finishing the sentence. Bianca was already examining the cabinet. She pressed the digital lock screen and it blinked awake. "Code," she muttered. Then she searched around the room as if the key might be lying somewhere obvious. But there was no key. Nothing careless. Whoever controlled this cabinet was careful. Then Bianca's eyes landed on the desk. She walked over and touched the laptop dock station. Her fingers trembled slightly. "Maybe they were dumb enough to leave access here," she whispered. She opened one of the drawers and pulled out a slim file folder. Inside were papers, not many, just 3 printed sheets. Bianca flipped them quickly. Then her face changed. That's the moment I knew. Because Bianca didn't look confused anymore. She looked horrified. She lowered the papers slowly, as if they were too heavy for her hands. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Sienna stepped forward quickly. "What is it?" she demanded, her voice shaky now. Bianca didn't answer immediately. She just handed the papers to me with trembling fingers. I looked down, and what I saw made my whole body go cold. It wasn't business. It was a schedule, a private schedule, dates, times, initials, locations. And beside them, names, women's names, not 1, not 2, many, and at the bottom, like a signature stamped in ink, were 3 lines marked clearly: R.D.A. Roland, Damian, Adrian. My throat closed. My chest tightened like someone squeezed my lungs, because suddenly, the perfect husbands in our lives didn't feel perfect anymore. They felt planned, organized, like predators. And as my eyes blurred over the list of women and dates, I realized this wasn't just cheating. This was something else. Something coordinated, something shared, something 3 men had been doing together, in secret. Sienna snatched the papers from my hands and scanned them, her face draining of color. "No," she whispered. Bianca's voice came out like broken glass. They planned this." And right then, standing inside that cold vault, under that sterile light, I realized something that shook me deeper than fear. This vacation wasn't just a getaway. It was the setting of their crimes, and we were standing right in the heart of it. For a few seconds after we saw that schedule, none of us could move. We were standing there in that cold vault like 3 statues dressed in silk and perfume, staring at papers that looked harmless, but felt like knives. I could hear Sienna breathing like she was trying not to cry. Bianca looked like she wanted to scream, but didn't want her voice to echo through the house. And me, I felt like I was watching my life crack open in slow motion. Because it wasn't just that Roland might be cheating. It was the fact that his name was lined up beside Damian and Adrian like they were partners in something planned. Bianca was the first to speak. Her voice came out low, dangerous. "This isn't just affairs," she whispered. "This is a system." She turned around sharply, scanning the room again like she was hunting. "They documented it. I know men like this. They always document it. Sienna's eyes widened. Document it, she repeated, voice shaking. Bianca pointed toward the labeled USB shelf. That's what that is, she said. That's not business storage. I looked toward the shelf and my stomach turned, because I hadn't looked closely the first time. I hadn't wanted to, but now with my heart pounding, I stepped closer and realized each USB slot had a tiny tag. Some were blank, some were coded with letters and numbers, and some had women's names written in small uppercase black ink. Like whoever labeled them didn't see women as people, just files. Sienna pressed her hand to her mouth. Oh God, she whispered, her eyes glossy. Bianca reached out and plucked one drive from the shelf with a grip so tight her knuckles turned white. Then she held it up like it was proof in a courtroom. The label read, Maya Hillside R.D.A. I swear my legs almost gave out. Those weren't random initials. Those were our husbands. Sienna's voice cracked. What does that mean? She asked. But none of us wanted to answer because we all knew what it meant. Bianca's jaw clenched harder. It means all three of them, she said slowly. Together. Her eyes lifted to mine. They weren't just cheating. They were doing it together. My whole chest tightened. I felt like I couldn't get enough air. No, I whispered, shaking my head. Roland wouldn't. But the words died in my mouth because the evidence was sitting in Bianca's hand. Cold, real, unforgiving. Bianca grabbed another drive, then another. Her movements were fast now, like she was trying to pull the truth out before fear could stop her. The labels were worse. Kiara, penthouse, R/D. Lana, boat D/A. Tessa, hillside R/D/A. Some women had one name on the label, some had two, some had all three. It wasn't a man cheating in weakness, it was three men sharing women like trophies. Sienna backed away, shaking her head like she was going to faint. This is not real, she whispered. This is not my life. Her voice broke on the last word. Bianca didn't stop. She turned to the desk and found a small black external hard drive. It was also labeled. This one read, Master, Private. My body went cold again. That word, master, felt like control, like ownership. Like a man storing pleasure the same way he stored money. Bianca held it up and looked at us like a commander about to order something horrible. We can either leave right now and pretend we never saw this, she said, or we can see exactly what kind of men we're married to. Sienna's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to see, she whispered. I don't want images in my head I can't erase. Bianca's voice hardened. And I don't want to go home and kiss my husband after he's done this, she snapped. Then she turned to me. Lena, what do you want? My lips trembled. I looked at the cabinet again. That locked cabinet with their names engraved like a proud signature. That cabinet wasn't just hiding betrayal. It was hiding the full truth. And something in me changed. I felt it, like a quiet snap in my heart. I want to know, I said. My own voice sounded unfamiliar, stronger, colder, but also broken. Bianca nodded once like she respected it. Then she shoved the schedule papers into her bag. Okay, she whispered. Then we do this right. She connected the external hard drive to the laptop dock. The laptop screen lit up. And the moment it came on, I realized something terrifying. There was no password, no encryption, no protection. Like they never believed any of us would ever dare look. Bianca clicked into the folder system. Inside were multiple folders, arranged like a library. One folder was titled Hillside, another Boat, another Penthouse. And the last folder made my stomach twist into a hard knot. It was titled Wives. Sienna gasped like she'd been punched. Bianca froze, her fingers hovering over the mouse like she was suddenly afraid to click. I stared at that folder and felt my whole soul leave my body for a second. Wives? I whispered. Why would there be a folder named Wives? Bianca clicked. Inside were 3 video files, each one labeled. Sienna, test 1. Bianca, test 1. Lena, test 1. Sienna let out a strangled cry and covered her mouth with both hands. Bianca's eyes widened like she couldn't believe it. And my stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. I stepped back, my heart pounding violently. No, I whispered. No. because I understood in that moment. This wasn't just cheating. This was a game, a sick game, and we were the targets. Bianca's voice came out in a whisper. "They recorded us too?" she asked. She sounded like she was about to shatter. Sienna started shaking her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. I didn't, she sobbed. I didn't do anything. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe because I wasn't sure what test meant. Was it a test of loyalty? A test of temptation? A test to see if we would fall? My chest tightened. My mind raced. And then Bianca did the one thing none of us had the courage to do. She clicked on, "Lena, test 1. My blood turned to ice. The screen loaded. And then, a video started. The lighting was dim but clear. The camera angle was hidden, like it had been placed discreetly in a corner. And there I was, me, in my own bedroom, wearing a silk robe, walking toward Roland. Roland was on the bed, shirtless, smiling at me like a man in love. I watched myself laugh, watched myself lean in, watched myself kiss him, and I felt my entire body turn numb, because it wasn't the intimacy that made me nauseous. It was the fact that it was filmed. That moment was supposed to be ours, private, sacred. But someone, Roland, had turned it into content. The video continued, showing him whispering in my ear, my face smiling, my hands on his chest, and then the audio picked up his voice clearly. "You don't know how much they're going to hate you when they find out you're mine." The words slammed into my soul. I stared at the screen, mouth open, heart racing. "What did he just say?" Sienna whispered behind me, voice shaking. Bianca's face had gone completely pale. Roland's voice continued in the video. "It's okay, baby. Just trust me. This is going to be beautiful." Beautiful, that word. The way he said it like he was talking about love, but meaning something else. And then, in the video, Roland reached over and adjusted something on the bedside table, something that looked like a small black device. The camera. He adjusted the camera, on purpose. Then he looked directly into the lens and smirked, like he was speaking to someone watching. And that was the moment I broke, because I finally understood the entire situation. Roland wasn't cheating behind my back. He was performing behind my back, for an audience, for his friends, for his billionaire brothers in sin. My knees hit the floor without permission. A raw sound escaped my throat. Half sob, half scream. Sienna started crying loudly now. Bianca slammed her hand on the desk, her eyes burning with rage. Then Bianca clicked out of the file quickly like she couldn't stomach it anymore. But the damage was already done. I looked at the remaining files. Sienna, test 1. Bianca, test 1. And I felt sick. Because if my video was that, then what were theirs? And why did our husbands call it a test? Bianca turned to us slowly, her face tight with fury. "They planned this," she said, voice shaking now too. "They used us. They filmed us. They, she swallowed hard. And we're still in this house, alone, with their staff." Sienna cried harder. "We need to leave," she begged. "We need to go now." But I couldn't move yet, because I wasn't thinking about leaving. I was thinking about revenge. I was thinking about justice. And as I stared at that folder titled Wives, I realized one terrifying truth. This vacation wasn't where we discovered their secret. This vacation was where they planned to destroy us. And now that we knew, the question wasn't what will we do? The question was, what will they do to silence us? The first thing I heard was the gate. Not the small pedestrian gate, the main one. The heavy iron gate that only moved when someone with authority arrived or when security received a direct command. It made that deep grinding sound, metal against stone, like the estate itself was waking up. Bianca's head snapped toward the vault door. Sienna stopped breathing, and I stayed on the floor, staring at the laptop screen like it had hypnotized me, like I was too broken to react. Then we heard the engines, more than one, not a staff car, not a delivery truck. Multiple luxury vehicles rolling in together, slowly, like the people inside weren't in a hurry, like they owned the silence. Bianca rushed closer to the vault door and pressed her ear against it. "They're here," she whispered, voice tight. "They're here early." Sienna's body started trembling like she was going into shock. No, she muttered. "That's not possible. They said they'll be back late. They said she couldn't finish the sentence. Bianca turned sharply, eyes wide, and said coldly, "Your husband said that. And now you know what that means." The air inside the vault suddenly felt hotter, tighter, like the truth had become too heavy for the room to carry. I pushed myself up slowly, knees shaky, chest tight. The betrayal was still burning inside me, but fear mixed with it now, cold and sharp. Because we weren't just standing inside a secret room, we were standing inside the enemy's chest, holding his heart in our hands, and he was coming home. Bianca yanked the hard drive out of the dock quickly, nearly snapping the cable, and stuffed it into her bag. Then she grabbed as many USB drives as her fingers could hold. "Help me," she hissed. "Take them. Take as many as you can." My hands moved on instinct. I grabbed drives too, random ones with women's names, ones marked with coded labels I didn't understand. I didn't even care what I was picking anymore. I just wanted proof. Sienna was frozen, tears still sliding down her face, hands hugging her own arms like she was trying to stop herself from falling apart. Bianca snapped her name, "Sienna, move!" and that broke her trance. She stumbled forward, shaking, and started grabbing whatever she could, too. Bianca slammed the laptop shut with a sharp click and whispered, breathless, "Okay, we leave no trace." She wiped the desk surface with her sleeve like she was cleaning fingerprints from a crime scene, then pointed at us. "Don't touch anything else." My eyes flicked toward the cabinet again, the one with our names, and for the first time, it didn't look like a trophy. It looked like a grave. We stepped out of the vault carefully, Bianca leading, Sienna in the middle, me behind. Bianca pulled the painting back into place and climbed down from the stool quickly, moving fast, whispering, "Act normal. The moment we panic, we're finished." Finished. That word felt dramatic in my head at first, but looking around that mansion again, I knew it wasn't. Men like our husbands didn't just protect money, they protected secrets. We hurried upstairs into the master suite and closed the door behind us. Sienna looked like she might collapse at any second, so I guided her to the edge of the bed and told her softly, "Sit." Bianca paced the room like her brain was running ahead of her body. "We have two options," she whispered. "Either we leave now, before they come inside, or we stay and act like nothing happened." My throat tightened. "Pretend?" I asked. Bianca nodded. "Yes, pretend we're still clueless wives, loving wives." Sienna let out a broken sob. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't look at Adrian and smile." Bianca stopped pacing and stared at her. "Then you'll lose everything," she said calmly. "Do you know what kind of lawyers billionaires have? Do you know what kind of power they have? If we show our cards too early, they'll bury us and call it love." Those words crawled into my skin like chills because she was right. They could paint us as unstable, hormonal, paranoid. They could say we invaded privacy, that we broke into private property, that we were the villains. I swallowed hard. "So what's the plan?" I asked. Bianca's eyes locked on mine. "We set a trap." Before I could even process that, the door handle rattled. All three of us froze. It wasn't a light touch. It was deliberate, confident, like the person outside belonged there. Bianca mouthed one word, "Smile." I wiped my face quickly and forced my breathing to calm down. Sienna stood up too fast, wobbling slightly. Then the door opened. Damien walked in first. He looked perfect, as always, tailored white linen shirt, sleeves rolled up, expensive watch glinting in the light, hair neat like he had never broken a sweat in his life. His eyes scanned the room, and for a second, just 1 second, his gaze sharpened like he sensed something. Then Adrian and Roland walked in behind him. When I saw Roland, my heart split, because the man I once loved, my husband, looked at me like nothing had happened, like he hadn't recorded me like an object, like he hadn't built a folder in his secret room named Wives. Roland smiled the same smile he used the day he asked me to marry him. "Baby," he said warmly, "why are you all hiding upstairs?" The warmth in his voice made me sick. Adrian kissed Sienna's cheek and murmured, "Angel," like he was a devoted husband. Damien walked up behind Bianca and wrapped an arm around her waist. "Miss me?" he asked. Bianca gave him the kind of smile that would fool any man, the kind rich women are trained to wear at charity galas and press conferences. I missed you, she said sweetly, and it sounded believable. That terrified me because I realized Bianca wasn't just panicking, Bianca was already planning war. Roland walked closer to me, leaned in, and kissed my cheek. The moment his lips touched my skin, my stomach turned, but I didn't move away. I forced myself to smile because I had to. His hand slid down to my belly possessively, and he whispered, "How's my wife?" Like I belonged to him, like I wasn't human, just a title. I lifted my eyes and met his gaze, and something inside me clicked. Roland hadn't come back early for no reason. He was watching, testing, checking if the mansion was still under his control. "Fine," I said softly, keeping my voice steady. "We've been enjoying ourselves." Roland stared a second too long, like he was searching my face for cracks. Then he smiled wider. "Good," he said, "because tonight we have something planned." Sienna stiffened. Bianca's smile stayed in place, but her eyes hardened. Damien clapped his hands once, excited. "Ladies," he said, "we decided to come back early because we didn't want to miss out on the fun." Fun. The word scraped through me like a blade. Roland stepped closer and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear, like a loving husband. Then he whispered something that made my blood turn to ice. "Don't worry," he murmured. "This weekend is going to change everything." I forced a small laugh, trying to sound playful. "In a good way?" Roland's gaze didn't soften, he only smiled. "In the best way," he replied. Then he kissed my cheek again, but this time his lips lingered longer than necessary. Like a warning, like he was reminding me who owned me. As the three men walked out of the room to freshen up, Bianca finally released the breath she'd been holding. Sienna's hands were shaking, and I stood there staring at the door after Roland, because the truth was now clear. We weren't just trapped in their vacation home, we were trapped in a game, and the men weren't the only ones with rules. Bianca pulled us close and whispered urgently, "Tonight, they're going to do something. Whatever it is, we have to be ready." And deep in my stomach, I felt that terrifying certainty settle. This wasn't the weekend we discovered they were cheating. This was the weekend we discovered what kind of monsters we married. And the scariest part? They still thought we were blind. That night, the mansion didn't feel like a vacation home anymore. It felt like a palace built for secrets and punishment. The staff moved like ghosts, silent and efficient, setting up the dining hall the way they did for men who were used to controlling everything. A long table stretched across the room, layered with gold-edged plates, crystal glasses, and candles that burned so cleanly it almost looked unreal. The chandelier above us cast a warm glow, but the warmth didn't reach my skin, not with what I knew now, not with the hard drive pressed inside Bianca's bag like a ticking bomb. I sat beside Roland, my hands resting in my lap, smiling like a loyal billionaire wife, while my stomach churned with rage. Across from me, Sienna looked like she'd been drained of life. Her lips were pale, her eyes were distant, and she kept blinking as if she was trying to wake up from a nightmare. Bianca looked like she belonged. She was wearing a deep emerald dress, her hair pinned perfectly, her face calm. The calm of a woman who had decided she would never be a victim again. Damien couldn't stop staring at her, like he had no idea his wife was already 10 steps ahead of him. "Ladies," Damien said, raising his glass. "To a perfect weekend. No phones, no distractions. Just us." My heart thudded at those words. No phones, no distractions. Just us. It sounded romantic. It sounded like a billionaire husband trying to reconnect with his wife. But I heard it for what it truly was. Control. A toast to control. Roland's hand slid over my thigh under the table, slow and possessive. Not intimate, not loving, ownership. I didn't flinch. I couldn't. I kept my smile in place, even though my skin crawled. Adrian leaned close to Sienna and murmured, "You've been quiet all day, Angel. Are you okay?" Sienna forced a laugh that sounded like it hurt. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "Just tired." Adrian's eyes lingered on her for a moment too long, like he was studying her face for signs. Then he smiled, and it was charming enough that anyone watching would believe him. But I noticed something darker underneath it. He was checking, testing, watching. Roland reached for his wine glass and said casually, "So, how was your day? Did you girls enjoy the mansion?" Bianca answered before any of us could slip. Of course, she said smoothly. It's stunning. You have excellent taste, Damien. Damien grinned proudly. This place has history. It's private, untouchable, no outsiders, no leaks. Again, my blood went cold at the way he said leaks. Roland nodded, swirling his wine slowly. Exactly, this is the kind of place men can be free. Men can be free. I swallowed hard. And then Adrian chuckled. Don't make it sound like a crime scene. We just wanted to celebrate. We worked too hard to not enjoy what we built. Celebrate. That was the word they were using. But Bianca's eyes met mine across the table, and I could tell she heard the truth too. This wasn't a celebration. This was a setup. The food was brought out, expensive, beautiful plates, everything tasting rich and heavy. But I could barely swallow. Every time Roland smiled at me, I remembered his folder. Every time his thumb brushed my skin, I remembered those videos, those women, those trophies, those names. I wanted to explode at him. I wanted to stand up, throw the wine in his face, and scream that I knew everything. But Bianca's warning echoed in my head like a siren. Don't show your cards too early. So I stayed quiet. I played my role. And that was the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. Halfway through dinner, Damien leaned back and said, After dessert, we've got something special planned, a little tradition. Sienna froze mid-bite. I felt Roland's hand tighten on my thigh, as if he sensed my tension. What kind of tradition? Bianca asked. Sweet as sugar. Damien's smile widened. Something we do when we want to remind ourselves how lucky we are. Adrian added, It's fun, you'll love it. Roland's gaze slid to me slowly. It'll bring us closer, he said. The way he said closer made my stomach twist. Because closeness wasn't what they wanted. They wanted control. They wanted to prove something. They wanted to humiliate without being caught. Dessert came. Chocolate soufflé with gold flakes, like the kind people post online and call luxury. But I couldn't taste it. All I could taste was fear. Then the staff cleared the table and Damien stood. All right, he said, clapping once. Ladies, let's go. He didn't ask, he commanded. Roland stood too, adjusting his cuffs like he was preparing for business. Adrian offered Sienna his arm like a gentleman. She took it because she had no choice. Bianca stood last, and before she moved, she reached down and squeezed my hand under the table. It was quick, subtle, but it meant everything. It was her way of saying, Stay sharp, don't break. We followed them through a hallway lined with expensive paintings until we reached a large double door. Damien pushed it open, and my breath caught. Inside was a private cinema, not the playful kind wealthy people show off. This one felt intentional. Rows of plush leather seats, thick soundproof walls, dim lighting that made the room feel like a confession booth. And in the center of the room, facing the biggest screen I had ever seen, were 3 chairs. Not cinema chairs. Chairs that looked like they belonged in an interrogation room. Damien turned to us and smiled like a man offering a gift. Sit, he said. My heart began pounding so violently I thought they would hear it. Sienna's voice cracked. What is this? Adrian's expression remained calm. Relax, it's just a game. Roland stepped closer to me, his fingers brushing my jaw, forcing my eyes to stay on him. Trust me, he murmured, so softly only I could hear. And that was the moment I knew something terrifying. Roland didn't just come back early by coincidence. He came back because he suspected something. Because the men, with all their power, all their arrogance, had one thing in common. They could smell betrayal, even when it was only in your silence. Bianca sat first, crossing her legs gracefully like she was at a runway show. I sat next, my body stiff as stone. Sienna sat last, hands trembling, tears already forming. Damien nodded, satisfied. Then he walked toward the projector table in the back of the room. And when he picked up the remote control, smiling like the devil himself, my blood ran ice cold. Because I suddenly understood the true horror of this tradition. They didn't just want to entertain us. They wanted to show us something they believed we would never survive. Damien looked at the 3 of them, Roland, Adrian, and himself, like he was about to officiate a ritual. Then he pressed play, and the screen lit up. The moment the screen came on, my whole body went cold. At first, it was just a black screen. Then a timestamp appeared in white text at the bottom corner, like a security camera recording. The sound that followed was low, muffled, the kind of sound that comes from a hidden microphone. And then the video sharpened. It was a bedroom, not just any bedroom. A bedroom I recognized. My breath caught so sharply it felt like pain. It was Damien's private suite in the same mansion. I had seen it earlier that day when Bianca and I walked past the open door, the staff changing the sheets. On the screen, the room was dimly lit, except for one lamp glowing gold on the bedside table. There was a woman in that bed, naked, laughing, a stranger. Then the camera angle shifted slightly, and Damien walked into the frame, shirt unbuttoned, hair slightly messy, calm, confident, like this was normal, like this wasn't evil. He walked to the bed, leaned in, kissed her mouth, then her neck, and the woman giggled like she had no idea she was being recorded like an animal in a cage. I couldn't breathe. The room we were sitting in felt smaller, like the air had suddenly been sucked out. I turned my head slowly, almost in a trance, toward Bianca. Her face remained still, but her eyes looked dead, not sad, dead, like something inside her had already snapped. Damien's voice came from the screen then, low and playful. "Say my name." The woman moaned it, and the sound echoed through the cinema, loud, amplified, shameless. Sienna made a small choking sound beside me. I looked at her and saw tears spilling silently down her face, her hand covering her mouth like she was trying to stop herself from screaming. Roland sat behind me and slightly to the side, like a guard. And the most disgusting part? He didn't look surprised. He looked entertained. His eyes stayed on the screen, like he was watching something he owned, like he was proud. I turned slowly to look at my husband, searching his face for disgust, for anger, for anything that said, "This is wrong." But Roland's lips curved into a faint smile. Then he leaned toward me and whispered gently, like he was whispering a love confession. "This is what power looks like, Lena." My blood turned to fire. Power? No, this wasn't power. It was sickness. Damien's video continued, explicit enough that my skin crawled, but not so explicit it couldn't be watched. It was a performance, a trophy, a humiliation ritual. And then the screen went black. For half a second, there was silence. Then a new video began. A different bedroom, different lighting, different woman. But this time, the fat who walked into the frame wasn't Damien. It was Adrian, Sienna's husband, the man who called her angel 5 minutes ago. My heart started pounding harder. Adrian in the video was wearing a watch I had seen him wear at dinner. He walked toward the woman like he had done it 100 times. And the woman on the bed? She looked young, too young. My stomach twisted violently. Sienna let out a broken whisper. "Oh God." Her voice cracked like glass. She tried to stand, but Adrian's hand pressed down on her shoulder gently, forcing her back into the chair. Not violently, just firmly, like control. "Sit," he said quietly. The sweetness was gone from his voice now. Only command remained. That's when I realized the truth. These men weren't showing us these videos because they were careless. They were showing us because they wanted to, because watching their wives react was part of the pleasure. The screen went black again. Then the third video started. The third bedroom, the third woman, the third betrayal. And when the man walked into the frame, my entire world stopped. Roland, my husband, my billionaire husband, my perfect husband. He walked into the camera view like he didn't have a care in the world, like the woman waiting for him was just routine. He leaned over the bed, kissed her hard, pulled her close, and the woman turned her face slightly toward the lamp. And I recognized her. Not from outside, not from social media, not from pictures. I recognized her from my own life. Because she had attended my birthday dinner last year. Because she had hugged me. Because she had smiled in my face like a sister. She was one of my personal assistants. My assistant. My throat tightened. My heart broke so loudly inside me, I thought the room would hear it. I couldn't blink. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The room spun. The cinema lights blurred, the screen blurred. Then the sound of Roland's voice came from the video. "You're better than my wife." I felt something in my chest tear, like a string snapping. Sienna screamed. Bianca didn't scream. She stood up so calmly, so gracefully, that it scared me more than screaming would have. She walked toward the projector table. Damien turned, confused. Bianca, before he could finish, Bianca grabbed the metal wine bucket from the side table, lifted it with both hands, and smashed it against the projector. Crash! Glass exploded, the screen flickered, the sound cut out. Damien's mouth opened. Are you insane? Bianca turned slowly, staring at him with eyes that were not her eyes anymore. You, she said softly, you recorded women without their consent. Damien laughed like she'd said something stupid. Bianca, they wanted it. Bianca's voice rose. No, they wanted you. They didn't agree to be filmed like a trophy. Damien's smile faded. Roland stood up. Adrian stood up. And for the first time, I saw the real side of these men. Not charming, not polished, not billionaire perfect. Predators. Damien's face hardened. He stepped toward Bianca. You're embarrassing yourself. Bianca stepped toward him too, fearless. No, she said, I'm embarrassing you. Damien reached out like he wanted to grab her wrist. But Bianca did something I never expected. She reached into her bag and pulled out the hard drive. The room went dead silent. I felt my heart leap. Damien froze. Adrian froze. Roland froze. And the way all three men stared at that hard drive told me everything. That hard drive wasn't just evidence of cheating, it was evidence of crimes. Bianca raised it in the air like a weapon. You men, she said, voice steady, are sick. And you know what? You made one mistake. Damien narrowed his eyes. What mistake? Bianca smiled. You showed us. That moment, that exact moment, I realized the vacation was never for us. It was for them. They brought us here thinking we were powerless, thinking we were decorations. But now, we had their secrets, and secrets can kill billionaires. Roland turned to me slowly, his voice dangerously calm. Lena, he said, like he was warning me. But I wasn't Lena anymore. Not the Lena who smiled politely. Not the Lena who obeyed. Not the Lena who believed love meant loyalty at any cost. I stood. My legs were shaking, but I stood anyway. And when I spoke, my voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded like a woman who had just died and been reborn. You don't own me, I whispered. Roland's eyes darkened. Damien took one step forward. Give me that drive. Bianca held it tighter. No, Adrian's voice turned sharp. You have no idea what you're playing with. Bianca laughed coldly. Oh, I do, and that's why I'm going to win. I turned to Sienna. She was crying, shaking, destroyed. But when I touched her hand, she looked up at me, and in her eyes I saw it. The same thing burning in mine. Not sadness, not fear, war. Bianca stepped closer to us, forming a line. 3 wives, 3 broken marriages, and 1 shared secret. The men stared at us like they were seeing strangers. Damien's jaw clenched. You think you can threaten us? Bianca smiled slowly. No, she said. We're not threatening you. She lifted the hard drive higher. We're ending you. And that was when Damien did something that made my blood freeze. He smiled, a slow, cruel billionaire smile. Then he said, Then you're not leaving this mansion.